The 8 logical inferences that prove the existence of the greatest creator. 1. Siafeng. Translation edited by Tsonglong and Ailian. 1. Everything has a source, and the source is the greatest creator. The Amazon River that runs across South America, the mighty Nile River, the surging Yangtze River, and the roaring Mississippi River all have their headstreams. The Benguela Cold Current, Peru Cold Current, Mozambique Warm Current, and Guyana Warm Current all have their sources. The Rio de Janeiro London Airline, Los Angeles Paris Airline, Honolulu Manila Airline, and Paris Colombo Airline all have their starting points. All the tools we commonly use, from pencils, needles, shovels, spoons, and pliers to cars, computers, printers, cameras, and machine tools, as well as all the objects we use, from musical instruments, chess, painting and calligraphy, books, watches, and clocks, to tables, chairs, and wooden stool, shoes, socks, hats, teacups, thermoses, desk lamps, phones, refrigerators, and televisions. Everything created by humanity has its origin and did not appear out of nowhere. The cats, dogs, sheep, and pigs we keep in our homes all have a source, and even the plants we cultivate in our gardens, such as peonies, peaches, pears, and apricots, did not appear out of thin air. Their original origins can be traced. Music, writing, art, medicine, theories, methods, magic arts and axioms, and theorems all have sources. White Europeans, black Africans, yellow Asians, Arabians, and Brazilians are all descendants of their ancestors. The towering Himalayas, the fertile and vast Nile Delta, the extensive Amazon alluvial plain, and the Antarctic glaciers are all formed by the vicissitudes of history. All things have their origins, and the Earth, the solar system, and the universe are no exception. They too have their beginnings. Since everything has an origin, there must be a primordial origin, and this primordial origin is the greatest creator. 2. Everything is in motion, and the primordial motive power comes from the greatest creator. Mountains are rotating, winds are dancing, rivers are flowing, and springs are bubbling. Clouds are drifting and the earth is moving. The sea is churning and flames are burning. Grass and trees are growing, flowers are fading, bacteria are multiplying, and insects are busy. Cows and sheep are grazing, lions and tigers are running, hens are laying eggs, and larks are singing. Electrons are swirling, molecules are moving, particles are flowing, and electromagnetic waves are rushing. Infrared radiation is radiating, and gamma rays are piercing, electromagnetic waves are spreading, and photons are flashing. The heart is beating, blood is flowing, the skin is breathing, and the stomach is moving. Nerves are sensing, hair is growing, thoughts are connecting, and spirits are stirring. Though seated, we travel 1,000 miles. In a flash, the Milky Way spans millions of years. The sun, moon, stars, and celestial bodies fly by like lightning, black hair at dawn turning white at dusk. Everything in the universe is in motion, and it is through mutual impetus that things move. But where does the initial force originate if there is no greatest creator? 3. Everything has an image, and the nature of the image is energy, with the core of this energy being the greatest creator. An image refers to the size, shape, appearance, and structural type of an object, which is a watershed that distinguishes one substance from another and one object from another. Microorganisms and insects, grass and trees, humans and other animals, mountains and rivers, and so on, all are different, and the reason is that their images are different. If everything has its own unique image, how is an image generated? The origin of an image lies in the genetic structure. The image of something is determined by its genetic structure. The image of water is different from that of oil because their molecular structures are different, which means their genetic structures are different. However, any structure without the participation of energy can only be an illusion. For example, if we want to build a house, we first need to imagine the structure of the house in our brain. For complex buildings, we also need to draw a schematic diagram of the structure. But without the input of mechanical and human energy, the structure we imagined in our brain can only be an illusion. Only when we put in the energy of manpower and material resources can the structure that we imagined in our brain become a real house. A seed can only become a plant after absorbing nutrients and water from the soil and heat and light from the sun. A fertilized egg in the mother's womb can only develop into an animal with a head and feet if it is constantly supplied with nutritional energy. A light bulb can only emit light when electricity is input. A pile of soil can only become a mountain with the energy of the continuous movement of the earth. A river can only become a raging torrent with the energy of thousands of streams. So where does this energy come from? Let's trace it back to its source. For a small sapling to grow leaves, it needs to absorb water, which mainly comes from the infiltration of rainwater. So where does the rainwater come from? Rainwater comes from clouds that carry water vapor from the sky. And where do the clouds come from? The wind carries them from the ocean. And where does the wind come from? The cold and hot air currents on Earth form it through convection. And how are the cold and hot air currents formed? They are formed because the surface of the Earth continuously gains and loses solar energy as it rotates, ignoring factors such as lunar gravity. So how did the Earth start to rotate? And what force keeps it rotating continuously? According to the law of energy conservation, there can be no perpetual motion machine in the universe. The motion and changes of any object must be driven by one or more other energies. Without energy, there is no motion or change in anything. Therefore, all the motion and changes in things must ultimately have an initial push of energy that is not constrained by other energies. This initial energy is the greatest creator. The initial rotation of the Earth was driven by the energy of the greatest creator, and after it was set in motion, it was driven by other planets in the solar system, including comets.